All right, and welcome to the next episode of FinOps Fridays. Today, we're going to have a look and sample the flavors of the world. We've got Thiago from Brazil that's going to sort of give us a very unique perspective on FinOps. Brazil, South America has been an interesting place to learn about. Thiago, give us a quick introduction of yourself, the experiences you've had, where you've worked previously.
Uh, I've been working as a cloud architect for almost 7 years now. I'm really specialized in Google Cloud platform. My background is in business administration and economics. And nowadays, I'm an ambassador for the FinOps Foundation here in Brazil. I've been coordinating a lot of meetups around here, and also a program committee member for the Kubernetes AI Day at the KubeCon.
Excellent. And how did you get into the cloud? From business administration, how did you find your way into FinOps and the cloud?
I think it was pretty straightforward for someone who was passionate about technology and had this economics slash finance background. So FinOps and actually AI, it was a pretty straightforward road for me. It's not that apart as it seems, you know.
Gotcha. Yeah, excellent. On to our first topic. So let's understand, and this was fascinating to understand a little bit about the culture and the historical events, from the Brazilian perspective. FinOps is about the business and organizations working with the cloud from across the globe. Of course, the reach of cloud enables us to scale and go anywhere we want in the globe very, very quickly. It's a huge number of companies from a very, very diverse set of countries and backgrounds. There's different histories, different cultures, and they really do bring a very different approach and a unique set of problems to FinOps. So I wanted to talk specifically about Brazil, understand a little bit about the history of Brazil and why Brazil's very unique when it comes to FinOps. So talk about some of the historical events that you think have shaped Brazil, things like the historical inflation, the bank system inefficiencies in the 80s. Talk us through some of those.
Actually, the annual inflation rate in Brazil increased to 10.38% in January of 2022 from 10.06% in the prior month. Inflation rate in Brazil averaged 323% from the 80s until 2022, reaching an all-time high of 6,821% in April of 1990 and a record low of 1.6% in December of 1998. Interestingly, Brazilian banking sector developed a technological expertise in the clearing system during the high inflation period in order to process quickly checks and other financial operations that eventually become one of the most developed of the world. Brazil is also because of this early maturity of the banking system, we also got some downsides. Brazil is one of the leading countries in global credit card and banking fraud. Uh,
And so with
and
you spoke just briefly then of the clearing system. So talk to me a little bit
mhm.
about that clearing system. What is it, and why was that really critical and important?
uh, back in the 90s, if you didn't have a efficient system to perform the all the transactions, you will lose a bunch of money, and interests and uh, inflation devaluation of the money itself. Uh, Nearly instant payments, we call it here TED, TEDs. We had that for as long as I know since the 80s probably. Instant payments, it's not something extremely new here, and because of that, we had to really catch up in order to not have the firm's money or the family money to get way too devaluated overnight, because the inflation rate would soar overnight out of nothing.
So yeah, in terms of like the payments, in terms of paying for goods, or what were those like transferring money to friends? What was sort of the main sort of day to day clearing that happened that was impacted by that?
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
You're sort of saying so, having an instantaneous clearinghouse in the payments. For those were transactions between like people to people or between you and your employer receiving your wage. What was that sort of clearing and
Oh,
transaction?
pretty much every single transaction had to go through this system. Pretty much everything, payments, and nowadays even taxes we can do through instant payments.
Gotcha.
You know,
So yeah,
through
you'd go
through.
and pay for something at a shop. That transaction had to happen instantly. You pay $1 for a
Mhm.
bottle of water because in another day that bottle of water is now $1.20 type of thing.
Yep, even the government itself, when it's collecting taxes, need to be extra efficient, because it will devaluate over time.
Gotcha. Yep. And in terms of the FinOps, has FinOps been easy to sort of take hold in Brazil, given this focus they've had on efficiencies and transactions? Everyone seems to be very aware of the need for a focus on finances. Has it been easy to sort of get FinOps up and running and get people on board with FinOps?
Uh, Actually, that's a really interesting topic. Not in the framework that the FinOps Foundation brought, all the maturity level and the different crawl, walk, and run stages, because, we had to be able to forecast costs on a really mature way in order to keep resources on efficient level. Uh, you know, it's mandatory to create automation, not just because uh, it's based on a FinOps framework, but uh, our workforce is really small. We had big educational problems back in that goes back through centuries. Hard science it's really hard to get people into hard science, into computer science, and studying things like that and developing this kind of knowledge. So hiring is very difficult here in Brazil, and as a plus, our exchange ratio devaluated a lot. So now all not all, but most of our good developers are being hired to work abroad. You know, so this working gap is just growing steadier than ever. So we did not plan for some pillars of the FinOps framework. We were forced into it.
Gotcha. And in terms of, things like labor costs, so the cost of labor is very, very cheap and historically always has been. So things like
Mhm.
managed services, things like automation, the value of those in Brazil and the savings that they provide in Brazil is just significantly less than anywhere else. There's no enormous benefit to them because the cost of labor is so cheap.
Yes, actually, it's something that used to be uh, like this. The wages are really low, but things are changing way too fast. Companies from, just like I told you, used to be not a rule automating everything, because we had cheap labor for everything. But now this cheap labor is becoming a major how can I say, it's creating a big pressure from companies from abroad, to hire our cheap workforce. So it is to be true, and now we're not knowing how to do with that really well. The big resignation that hit the US and the Europe last year is actually hitting us as a byproduct right now. It's getting extremely tough to hire. It used to be, we didn't have a top of the class kind of workforce, but we used to compensate on the volume of how many people we used to hire. But now we've been threatened by all around, because hiring a bunch of Latin Americans or a bunch of Brazilians, it's way cheaper than hiring someone that's not willing to work. Sorry about that. Valentina. Shh. Sorry about that.
Working from
Valentina.
home.
Working from home, yeah. It was extremely cheap to hire, even though it wasn't like I said, top of class kind of professional. But now it's becoming hell on earth, because the competition it's not even fair. Some companies are hiring below minimum wage on their countries, and that's a fortune here in Brazil. That's a lot of money. So it's really tough to keep the employees on their jobs. So we're facing this not known problem for us. Brazil was never known as a specialized workforce exporter, and now we're doing that, but just like I told you, not because we are very good at it, but because we are very cheap at it. They're doing exactly the same we used to do in our inside market.
Gotcha.
So it's pretty tough to work now.
And in terms of some of the the banking system capabilities, so the banks acquired some very very good capabilities a lot earlier than other banking systems. Were you then at the forefront? Did you then have sort of much more technology starting to come in at that time?
Yeah, pretty much that. Yeah, we had to develop some really some really top-notch technology in order to deal with this hyperinflation. We're still pretty much well versed when competing through technology with banks from other countries. Actually, something really interesting. I was reading about instant payments fraud in US, and who's gonna pay for that bill, who's accountable for that phenomenon. And it was a surprise for me, because it's something that happened here since ever. We had to look for ourselves in order to not being a target for fraud. It's just like something normal. It's not something good, but it's something normal.
Yeah, yeah, and that was the next topic was the social outcomes. Typically, when we think of FinOps, it does deliver many benefits, and there's an enormous focus around the cost reduction and
Hmm.
efficiencies. But there is also those benefits like transparency, and you sort of mentioned that being critical for Brazil. The amount of credit card fraud, the cost of labor is low, so it's really rewarding to run scams. So, in terms of some of those social outcomes you've seen from that FinOps style approach, what is it? What is it that you see in Brazil?
Accountability, of course, automation. Uh, whenever it comes to the public sector, uh, now we have multiple touch points that are accountable for the social outcomes of every single penny that goes into a project. Uh, and just like we always say, FinOps is it's kind of an easy sell when it's perfectly frameworked and structured for Brazilian companies, because you need to compete on extremely unstable labor force, extremely unstable inflation rate, extremely unstable exchange rate. So if you're not extremely efficient, you won't even survive. And besides that, all the fraud and Brazilian corruption, the tax rate, it's something outrageous for a emerging market. Nowadays, our interest rate is also, it's a double digit interest rate as well. We have double digit inflation, exchange devaluation, and interest rates. So that's really tough to plan and to compete. So forecasting was always a major key for success.
Yeah, yeah, and the sort of accountability and transparency function, is that something when you start to talk about FinOps, that's one of the main leading points you have that discussion with, because hey, FinOps brings you that accountability, transparency, which everyone really wants in Brazil. Is that something that's the leading, instead of being a cost reduction efficiency, you actually lead with transparency? Is that something that happens?
Actually, I wish it was in such a naive way, but it's not. We were forced to create, based in economic incentive theory, we had to create, such a system where reinforce, where you benefit or reinforce someone who behaves well inside the system, or in order to avoid punishment. So it was much more like this, not in a romantic way. We were forced into this kind of uh, system, because uh, the corruption rate is also really, really high. So, uh, you know, it's so confusing. Uh, you know, uh, in the public sector, Brazil has a very formalistic and regulated procurement laws, but we have two uh, uh, procurement laws nowadays, and almost 10 different purchasing methods, so we had to create a really tough corruption law that went all the way from the project manager and architects, going to the cloud providers, including politics and firm owners. because it used to it used to be not as vast as it is now. It used to be something that only, like we say here, small fish get caught, in the net. So we were forced in creating this kind of incentive economic theory to the law,
Yeah, gotcha. And I want to go a little bit more into public sector next. But before that, we will break for our speed round questions. This is where we get to know our guest a little bit more and take a quick break from the world of FinOps. Thiago, you ready for the questions? All right. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Definitely no. I live in a neighborhood called Mocha. Mocha is an Italian neighborhood. It's just offensive.
Are you a cat person or a dog person?
Dog person. Actually, I have a lot of allergies from cats, so I'm not even. I don't even know if I'm a cat person, because I can't even, so
Yep.
I don't.
Red wine. Oh, sorry. Red wine or white wine?
I'm actually much more of a beer person.
Okay, that's the next question. Beer or spirits? I'm guessing beer.
Yes.
Do you ask permission or beg for forgiveness?
Ask for permission always.
Your favorite movie, director, producer, genre?
Scorsese, Gangs of New York, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull. Those are
Yeah,
amazing.
nice. Classic. Tea or coffee?
Coffee, for sure.
Brazil, of
Yeah.
course.
Eh,
Your favorite TV series?
Sopranos.
Favorites? Okay.
It's actually kind of funny, living in this Italian neighborhood. My friends that live near downtown, you know, they whenever they come here, they say they are in kind of they feel themselves inside a mix of Jersey Shore and The Sopranos. It's actually funny.
Nice. Your favorite song or musician?
Miles Davis, kind of blues.
Ah,
Yeah, I love jazz, love bebop jazz,
your
and uh, you know, I just love jazz.
your favorite food?
Uh, Italian food, I'll go with pasta al pesto genovese.
On a holiday, do you prefer to be doing activities or relax and do nothing?
Mm, Probably doing nothing nowadays.
Do you prefer buildings and architecture or nature?
Beauty and architecture, and whenever you can mix and match those things together, just like going to Rio de Janeiro or Mexico City, uh, that's something that's amazing for me.
Your favorite vacation location?
Rio de Janeiro and Mexico City, it had to be.
Do you prefer to text or talk?
Text. I'm a little shy, and uh, texting way prefer way over talking.
Your childhood nickname?
It's not something extraordinary. It's
Yep.
Chi. It's short for Thiago.
Your proudest moment?
It has to be when I was invited as a program committee member for the Kubernetes AI Day. Get in touch with such an amazing environment, uh, being able to uh, get in touch with cutting edge technology and such an amazing and vibrating community. Uh, that was terrific. And
Superb.
this year, it'll be the first year that I'll be able to go to KubeCon in person, because all of the pandemics and everything else was never there in person. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. You did quite well. Your diversity on the music, the classic TV, you come up with a score of 96. TV series I loved. Is it City of Men, City of God, the movie and the TV series? I that was, I mean, it's going back a little bit, but that was absolutely sensational. If you haven't seen that, viewers, highly recommend chasing that down. The movie and the TV series, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah,
Uh,
and the first scene of City of God, the one that when they're chasing the chicken,
yes,
uh, that's that's a favela day in a scene. It was such a tremendous tour de force from the art director and the photo director. You can feel uh, to your bones, that they're, you need no introduction with that scene, that they are going to talk about everything that's nice and all the cultural side of the favelas, but they are also going to talk about some not so good parts of living in a slum, in a favela. Just that scene, you don't need any other introduction for a Brazilian. I'm 100% sure that every single Brazilian, without knowing what that movie is about, will pretty much understand what the director is trying to create with that atmosphere.
yeah, yeah. I cannot rate it highly enough. Again, viewers, dig for it, look it up. It was sensational. So that's the first half of this episode. If you've got any questions you'd like to know more, give us an email at feedback@finopsfridays.com, or if you're watching on YouTube, pop a comment below. That's it for the first half of the episode. Stick around and we'll have the other half of the episode next. Thank you.